Hello, my friends. I'm going to show you today lots of different ways of doing grouping, and I'm going to show you something about the grouping tool that you didn't realize. That means that it's probably the way that you should do all of your grouping. So, grouping is when you um, kind of associate characters to other things or props together. So, for example, there's multiple different ways that things can be grouped. There's I guess you'd say at its simplest level, it's when you take one thing and then associate it with another. So this cylinder here uh, is a child of this woman, but in a sense, that's a group. So then wherever this woman's arm moves or wherever she moves, this moves as well. And before I do this, I'm going to be needing to do a lot of dragging pallets around today. So I'm just going to disable here. It's going to disable drag dot for all pallets. Don't know what gives you this message as if it's like super important, because it's easy to undo. So now when I move pallets in and out, they don't drag dot and kind of click into here. It's really annoying. So let me just open the hierarchy editor. It's opened off the screen here. So this is a good way to see all of the elements of my screen. And I've got groupings turned on here, but I had parameters turned off, which is usually on by default. So what we have here is Victoria 4.2, and I've already grouped. If I open here, holding the Alt button down, click on a button on a body, and it'll open up every single sub thing. And you'll see here I've already made the cylinder a child of her hand. So that means wherever the hand goes, the cylinder's going to go with it. But that can be problematic. Sometimes I might want to do some scaling on the hand that I don't want to apply to the cylinder. So I want to make the hand bigger, but the cylinder's a size that I want it to keep. So one way to do that would be simply to unparent this, then move the hand, then parent it back. But if there's movement involved as well, especially animation, that may not be convenient. Now, one really common way to do it, and this is going to highlight a massive problem with Poser, because this file has become very unstable and I don't have any earlier version where it's stable. But if I take this version of Victoria, this is the way that we used to do grouping. So what we do is we just take this figure, then we'd go up to figure, and then we'd do set figure parent, and then we'd choose the figure, say the other figure that we wanted to parent with. Why would you want to do that? Good question. I'm glad you asked. Because there are lots and lots of pose sets where figures are brought into the scene posed in relation to each other. This is a set called Family Time, and over here I've got In the Mood, two poses here applied to Michael and Victoria. And what it does is you apply these poses, and it sets them to a zero position in the middle of the scene, which is often not where you want them. So what you could do is set Victoria to be the child of Michael once you pose them, and then wherever you move Michael, Victoria moves. But that can have a whole bunch of knock-on problems that you might not want. I'm not going to go into too much detail with them, but scaling and conforming clothing can sometimes be problematic, especially hair as well. So what we have here is a trio of characters, and let me see if I can. And I'm now in the hierarchy editor. The characters are Michael 4, the kids 4, and Victoria 4, and they're all independent. And then all of this down to here are their clothes. Oops, and Victoria. So I could parent the figures to Michael or to Victoria or even to the kid, and then wherever I want them to move, I move the parent figure and they all move with it. But let me show you something straight away. What I'll do is I'm going to Actually, I'm just going to create a group. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the object and I'm going to create grouping. And you'll see down at the bottom now we have a thing called grouping. Down at the bottom of the hierarchy, there you go, called grouping. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag Michael, the kids, and Victoria into grouping. So I just shift select and drag them into there. So now they're all a child of this group called grouping, which I can rename incidentally. We'll just call it example group. Example group. Incidentally, you can also have groups within groups. So now if I take my example group, which is selected up here, which is showing as a child of Michael, it's just weird. I can now move that example group and they all move together. And that's great. I can rotate them, I can scale them, whatever. But if I now scale them, you'll see their clothes don't scale with them. So what I needed to do is I needed to drag their clothes in there with them. So now when I do that, now when I scale the group, all of the stuff that's part of the group scales with them. Now I've accidentally clearly I've accidentally included the garden here somewhere. Yeah, here we go. So I need to drag that out and make it a child of the universe. Go back to the group. Hopefully that sorted that out now. So now I can scale a group, but more importantly, for the sake of this, supposing I want this group here to, supposing this scene, I've deliberately made this Garden of Galahad set off center. There could be any number of reasons that I might do that, but I've moved it from where it comes into the center of the scene. So when I load this set, this cross is actually in the center of the scene. And when I applied those poses that I showed you earlier, it resets them to center of scene. But very often that's not where you're going to want to keep those figures. You know, supposing you're doing a crowd scene and this crowd, which I'm actually doing for another tutorial video on background blurring for motion when vehicles are moving. And supposing I want this trio to be set off somewhere else, not on the center point, this grouping trick is going to help you. So now I've created this group and I'm going to go up here. It's considered to be a prop, I don't know why. And now I can just drag this whole group over and move them into a position where they're talking. Now, this set is quite interesting. If I'm moving close, you'll see every single character's feet are through the floor. So that's another time when you might need a grouping. So for example, this set is called Garden of Galahad. We've got walls, but we've also got, I believe I've already grouped it here, the pergola. So now, when I take that Garden of Galahad, it's loaded into the scene higher than the foot level of the figures. And it would be really annoying to go around to every single character and have to do Control D to drop them down. And obviously this boy, Control D means drop figure to floor. But if I did it to this boy, he'll drop to the floor. He won't be in this guy's arm. So what I need to do then is manually lower him until it looks like he's sitting in his arm. So it's a lot easier if I just take this Garden of Galahad and just lower it a little bit, just watching their feet. So whenever I'm trying to match feet to the floor, you want a tiny, tiny bit of intersection on the feet where the feet are slightly bedding into the ground surface, but not too deep. So now they're kind of all okay. So it was that was just the set was designed to enter the scene in the wrong way. But again, that was a grouping that saved me there. And this, well, in actual fact, that was I just parented the pergola to the pergola is this bit, by the way. This pergola here in the background. I just parented that to the garden set, and then it all moved together so that the pergola wasn't floating after I lowered it. So back to our group here. So now I don't need to remember if I set them all to be children of little Johnny here, or dad or mum. All I need to do is find the group, which is annoyingly, the group is set up as a child of Michael, even though he's a separate group down the bottom. Example group here. So even though he is a child of the group is also a child of him, which is really dumb. But anyway, so now I've selected him in the hierarchy window, and now I can just move that entire group. So they're going back here, and they're having a conversation with these guys. And they're now in the center of the pergola, which is where I actually wanted them. And now that's a lot easier way to move them. So grouping solves multiple problems that you probably didn't know you needed, but is a much more elegant way of moving multiple figures around at a time. So obviously if I was doing this for a finished render, I'd check their eye lines and that kind of thing. But for now, that'll probably do. In fact, no, I'll do a separate video on how you can use Lookat to sort their eye lines out. But for now, that's to show you the value of grouping and parenting. I said also that there are other types of grouping. Whenever you bring clothes into a scene and then conform them, in a sense, they are now grouped with the figure, but they also inherit the bend and scale properties, or at least the bend properties of the figure. Hair does the same thing when you conform it, or it also conforms to a figure. That's another type of grouping. Slightly different properties, more of just a simple prop group. And then there's this one that I've showed you now. So if you have an earlier version of Poser, I can't remember when they introduced grouping. I'm going to say maybe Poser 9 or 10. Prior to that, they didn't have this option here to create a group. So the only way you could do it was with parenting. And that was a much less elegant way of doing things. But now you have this group option which controls their clothes and controls their orientation and all the props in the scene as well. It's a much better way of working. And I did forget to include that cylinder the boy was holding. Doesn't matter. Anyway, guys, hopefully you found that useful, and I will speak to you again soon.